who you are, Bob.
All right, welcome folks to the Wild Bob Ronnie Show. This is our Tuesday night edition of the UGG TV, Ustream, whatever else we're on here, show that we're coming to you from Lapalek, Tennessee, US of A. We are happy to have you, and we hope we say some things that have some meaning to somebody other than just us. And so I just don't know. This is Ariel Hinton, and then of course this is the Master of Mischief, Ronnie Sharp.
I didn't do it. So what's going on, fellers?
I don't know. Did we rehearse anything? I just got here about a minute ago.
You mean you ain't read your preparatory notes?
Read my stuff.
How you expect we're going to pass a budget if you don't read your
Right,
notes?
think we ought to go ahead and pass one here.
Yeah.
We'll vote for it no matter what it is.
Is that right? Yeah. We'll do better than they're doing.
Yeah. Well, there's I had something on my mind. I can't think too much about it, but I do a lot of reading in the newspaper, and it all kind of runs together after a while.
Right.
Been
reading any more Barney Google?
No, that was a good one. That was a good one. Kept that.
Barney Google and Snuffy Smith.
Snuffy Smith. I thought that was pretty good, though, as long as I've looked for the definition of educated. And finally find the definition in the comics.
That's to learn everything you don't ever need to know.
Well, I always called it useless trivia.
Right.
And
I'm a vast storehouse of that stuff.
Oh,
yeah.
You can win a quiz game on trivia.
There was a. Did you ever watch Jeopardy?
Yeah.
Well, last night, the final question. I can't remember what the question was, but it had to do with doggone. I ain't been taking that stuff. I watched another thing. I'm getting off on 2 or 3 subjects here, but last night.
Well, we're going to have to start rehearsing more.
Yeah, we're going to have to start rehearsing. Last night, our honorable city commissioner, Mr. Fannin, was on Gibson's talk show. And it's amazing. I thought my memory was bad, but now I believe his is getting a lot worse. I believe, what is that purple pill that people takes for something? Starts with a V. I don't take the stuff.
Nexium.
Oh, yeah, that's what it is. But I reckon it's supposed to affect your memory if you take too much of it. And I believe he's been taking some of it or something.
Nexium, is that what you said?
Yeah, that's a purple pill, but that's a purple pill. That ain't the blue pill.
Is that what it is? Okay.
Purple pill is Nexium.
Yeah.
So what were you going to say there? What were you? Something about Jeopardy. Did you ever get that and figured it out?
Yeah.
You ever watch that thorium reactor thing?
And I haven't found the video on it. I've been looking it up.
Well, it ain't lost. I've hand it to you, and you go lose it again.
I've got it on. I went to it 2 or 3 times, and for some reason I think I go to sleep. It's kind of like. It's kind of like when I go to watching.
To do that.
If you go to watch the evening news, I can't hardly stay awake because the commercials. There's so many commercials in there, and I try to count them to stay awake, and I'll count up to 12 or 10 or 12 commercials between the little segments of what's supposed to be news.
Right.
And
I listen to these your old time radio shows on the internet. And there was one I was listening to last week. It's 26 minutes long. And I tried for 4 nights to get all the way through it and went to sleep every time.
Okay.
So finally, I kept getting up about the same point. So finally, one day during the daylight hours, I just started in the middle and watched listen to the rest of it. That's the only way to get through some of these things when you get old and broke down.
Well, you know, when you get the Thursday paper from the press, it's about that thick.
Yeah.
You know, but there's about that much news in it.
Yeah, you go get that. You go get that Campbell County Journal.
Yeah, the Christian Journal.
Christian Journal, and it's got everything, all the news in it on 2 pages.
Right.
Yeah. Well, I'm partial, or have been, to watching or listening to Halloran. I believe it's on WOKI
Right.
98.7. But I've got any more to when I turn it on, if it's the commercial string, I just turn it back off and wait about 10 minutes and turn it back on, and then maybe I'll hear some talk.
He had 9 commercials in a row one the other morning.
Well, that's what I'm saying. A talk
Who
show
did?
host,
Who did?
Huh?
Who did?
Helen,
Valerie?
a talk show host don't have to do much. Every air he might talk 10 minutes.
Well, boy, that there coast to coast AM, they don't have nothing but commercials.
It's done gone south too. That used to be a great show. Or talk show
It's
listening up at night.
just something to listen to when you can't sleep, and most of it's foolishness. But I've got to, I don't even try anymore because it's just one long commercial. They'll
Yeah.
start a segment and they'll have about 10 minutes, and then they'll start a commercial, and they'll have a commercial and a commercial and a commercial and a commercial, and then they'll come back and say 2 sentences and
Yeah.
go back and finish your commercial.
Yeah, lead you say, well, we're
Yeah.
going to get to this
And
here
then
at the
they'll
end
come
of
back
it.
and go to the phones, and it's some old fool that's got tinfoil all over him trying to make a point.
But-
You know, I admire old George Norrie's patience, so he don't make fun of them fools. He just
Yeah.
encourages them because he's making money. I don't blame him. I'd take care of them idiots too.
Well, you can't say that about our shows.
No, we're all
Now,
full of
in fact, we don't
enthusiasm.
even
And
have commercials. We talk a little bit about Digger Wilson's thing down
five
there.
six two 5444 right there in the middle of the road in Sawmill
right
Holler.
down-
He got his winter propane in. You're going to need it.
Right down there in the middle of Sawmill
I
Holler.
hope he's got some
And,
mosquito spray too.
Well, what was that? A Amazon drone or
It
what
was one of them
that
there
thing?
tiger mosquitoes carrying dengue fever and malaria.
We went up to the farm a while ago and did a little bush hogging. We managed to hit a yellow jacket's nest.
Ooh.
We managed to run a couple big black snakes out. So,
Well,
really-
snakes
really
ain't bad,
messed-
but yellow jackets is murder.
Huh?
I said, them snakes ain't bad, but them yellow jackets is murder.
Yeah.
I'd rather be snake bit as, well, I mean, a black snake anyway is to be stung with a black yellow jacket.
Ryan, see, most things don't bite me because when they come at me, I stay perfectly still, and I also must have an offensive odor.
And that's how
Oh,
you
they
do. I
avoid
know
me,
saying
you know.
nobody won't sit on the
But
same
Ryan,
couch.
Ryan got stung 3 times.
Ooh.
I didn't get stung any.
That's an experience. I reckon everybody that does any bush hogging runs into that. I ran into a nest. I was going up a place, and the tractor wouldn't climb it and run right into it. And what it was in a log. An old, you know how a log will go away, and you just take a bush hog and chew it up. Ran up on that thing, and I couldn't. I just had to get off and leave it.
Right.
And he left the machine running.
I'd done
And the
that
bush
on a
hog
lawnmower
running.
one time.
Yeah, and after a while I got back to it, but I've had several occasions the yellow jackets.
Did you ever hear of Roger Wilson?
Huh?
You know Roger Wilson, the one that used to sell the papers, Dexter's brother? I think
Yeah.
his name's Roger, ain't he?
Yeah, I know who you're talking
He
about.
got into, him and his boy got into some yellow jackets down here on Bobby Beard's place one time, Robert Beard's place, and they just covered him up, and he went and jumped in the pond. He got 100 and something stings, the yellow jackets. No, I believe they just had shot me.
You know,
Well, you know what? They will sting me, you know, but
They'd suddenly
Right.
died.
a lot of times I get avoided. But I got stung 17 times on the head one, coming across that same field one time on that same tractor.
they probably remembered you.
Huh?
The
Probably.
I know of a fella I worked with his brother, and they were logging all the time. And somehow he took a dozer, and there's an old tree in the way or something. He pushed this thing with a dozer, and he got stirred up a nest of these yellow hornets. And they flat gave him a hard way to go. He ended up having to go to the doctor, and he tried to hide from them something, you know, to get away from them.
Yeah.
And them boogers, every time they would sting through the cloth in his shirt or whatever,
Yeah.
and everywhere one of them sting, it'd leave a bloody spot.
How about that?
And
That's
that's-
somebody at your door.
But
I remember several years ago they had a write up in the paper where some kid was walking through the woods and stirred up Now this is what they said. Stirred up these bees, and they come out of the ground and stung this guy.
Yeah.
Stung him bad.
Yeah.
A kid, he's just a kid. And they counted how many stingers they'd left in him. And a yellow jacket,
They don't leave
they
a
don't
stinger.
leave stingers.
That had to be a honeybee.
And
then, didn't it?
honeybees don't den. I never heard them being in the ground.
Well,
Something wrong
neither
with
have
that.
I.
Something wrong with that story.
Well,
Probably James.
it may. I saw something the other day. We've got a swarm of bees that are in the wall there at the shop. Have you
Are
seen?
you looking
know,
for me?
You know what I'm talking about? They took a light or something down from off the shop and left a hole up there, and these honeybees moved in.
Yeah.
And they've been
Yeah.
there for, I'm going to say, at least 10 or 12 years. They've been there forever, it seems like.
I'd be
Yeah.
getting some honey.
All right, do it.
Well, there's no way to get the honey out of the wall.
Yeah.
But what
Out
we
of the wall then.
oh
Let
my
him.
goodness! But we have hived several swarms off of it. Several of them.
Really?
Yeah.
Well, that's
they-
better than getting rid of them.
That's right. Well, you don't want to get rid of them. There's only been one sting, and I was the one that got that. There was one sitting on a handrail there, and I put my hand on it. Now it's the only sting that I know of anybody ever getting out of this swarm of bees. But anyhow, the other day,
Them there yellow jackets will nail you.
Now you get them little black Italian bees, they'll sting you.
these are the Europeans, I'm
The
sure.
Yellow bees. No, they're real
Yeah.
docile. You know, I've handled them.
I'll tell you what I've done, and I learned this. I never had messed with bees very much till my wife and I were married, and I saw her hive a swarm of bees one time. And I said, man, she is going to get eat up. She went out, she had put on no protection whatsoever, had on a pair of Bermuda shorts or whatever, and we had a big swarm of bees in a little old tree. And she just went up there and they set the hive down underneath it. And that swarm, I guess it was about like a gallon or close to 2 gallons of bees.
Yeah.
Set that hive up there, and she just hit that limb real hard.
Right.
Right down in there they fell, into the hive.
Right.
And she never got a sting or nothing. I thought, boy, she's going to get eat up. But she taught me something right there.
What took me, we had bees at the house, and we always handled them and everything. They're real docile. Well, I had a neighbor's boy down there decided he'd steal him some honey.
Oh, no.
Boy, he got eat up by them bees. Now, he said, well, they didn't sting you.
Well,
Now, they come out back whenever they were trying to do something about them bees dying off. They come in here with a new breed of bees. The guy up on the hill had bees. I'm pretty sure that's where they come from. They had you got some that are lighter ones in the dark ring like these.
Right.
These had a green ring.
is that right?
I saw them one year. They must not made it, but they was out there getting nectar out of. I think I had a mater patch out there and had them there green ring bees out there. They wasn't as big as a normal bee.
Mm-hmm.
They talk about that all them honeybees are not native to America.
No, they were brought here by.
But how did
settlers?
they have fruit before? They had to have something pollinated
Well,
before.
anything, it don't matter what bee it is, and there's even birds or whatever will pollinate.
Yeah, I think
anything that-
birds probably will.
Yeah, anything that touches that blossom and goes to another blossom, I don't care if it's what we call sweat bees or anything. And
I shook my my mater bushes that had growing out there on the porch. I still got them, but this took them forever to start. And it was blooming. I wasn't getting nothing. I started going out and shaking the thing like the wind to blow it.
Yeah.
They wasn't getting enough wind, what it was. I went there and shake them, and they started putting out.
Yeah.
Still a putting out.
Right.
well, the bees, I try to leave them alone. It's just like yellow jackets. I was working somewhere, a little old project, and we had a yellow jacket's nest there, and it was where I needed to do some pushing with a dozer, and I left the thing alone until winter, till they froze or whatever they do. Yeah, it was underground, and of course you could spot where they're at if you'll just watch them. You can see them and pick out where they're at. But normally I'll leave them alone, even if it's even a yellow jacket, because if it's they serve a purpose. They do pollinate.
Right.
Now the other it's been back earlier this season. I ran into a nest of yellow jackets. It had to do with a little pile of gravel material, and there was a cord running through it, and I had to go through there. I had to put another cord in where it was at, and I disturbed them. But I never had curiosity, you know what I'm saying? I never had found the queen in a yellow jacket's nest. And I went to probing around and messing with them till I found that queen. And the queen is about twice the size
Yeah, she's big.
of the yellow jacket.
Yeah.
And looks just like them. I mean, the markings and everything. But I'll tell you what, I get off and tell you another thing.
I saw an artist, and the way he made his concoction is he'd go to these here yellow jacket dens, he'd pour it full of lead, and then whenever it cooled, he'd dig it up and turn it upside down. He'd have all these things running there.
Oh, yeah.
Of course, they sacrificed the bees.
Yeah, they had to get the... Okay.
Go ahead.
Well,
now.
it's amazing. Well, I don't guess it's just nature. But, of course, a yellow jacket's nest, if you dig into it real gentle like, it's kind of like a condominium of wasp-bird nest. They're stacked and whatever else in there, of course. But anyhow, the other day I came out the back and I saw these two bees on the ground. And they was having a little bit of combat. So I just watched, see what was going on. Well, I identified one of them as a worker bee and the other as a drone. And
kind of like around here.
yeah, it's kind of like, but I just wanted to watch this thing and see what, how the outcome was. I didn't interfere with it.
Right.
The worker bee cut the wings off of the drone bee.
They'll cut the wings off, pitch them out the door when they don't need them.
Well,
Cut the wings off.
they cut the worker bee took the wings off of the drone, and there he lays. He's done for. He can't fly. And what this kind of showed me part of how nature works.
And how we ought to work.
Well, yeah, that kind of crossed my mind.
What they say, that they keep these drones there for the company of the queen,
Right.
and they can manipulate them to make worker bees anytime they want. I mean, as they're developing. But they have an excess of drones, and when they see they've got more than they need before winter comes on, they escort them to the door and cut their wings and pitch them out in the road.
Right. But this
Sounds
leads me.
logical.
Well, this kind of leads me back to nature, how nature works. These bees have been here for, well, I guess if you go back to whenever, biblical days or whenever the earth was created or whatever, because nobody has ever determined which came first, the bee or, what part of the hive.
I think the bee come before the honey.
Well, I agree with that, but how did you, through evolution, but anyhow, these bees determine that this bee has served his purpose. And that's the end of him. He's not going to be there during the winter and all the other stuff and whatever.
Let me tell you about honeybee, yellow jackets serving their purpose. I may have told this before, but it's better than everything I know I've told before. My brother next to me is 7 years older than I am, so he had been the baby of the family for 7 years, and then I came along and upset his apple cart. He was no longer the baby of the family, no longer the little darling. I kind of had supplanted him. Well, he always had a little resentment on that, and when he got old enough to milk cows, I wasn't old enough yet, but I had to go with him. He made me go do everything I could do with him. When we went to the lower pasture to milk the cows, he made me carry that big old pail which had a half cover over it, so if the cow kicked, you wouldn't get no manure in the bucket. He'd make me carry that old heavy bucket. So I was running on down the lane to where the cows were in the lower pasture, and I had to use the bathroom, and there was a hole in the ground there.
Uh-oh.
So I properly urinated in that hole in the ground, and all of a sudden yellow jackets started coming out of it. So I took that bucket and turned it over and set it on that hole. Well, my brother Dean came along just a little bit after me. He saw I'd left the bucket there, and he picked it up, and boy, did he get eat up with yellow jacket. So it was kind of the poetic justice that I worked on him, I guess.
Hello. You didn't get stung.
Huh?
You didn't get stung.
No. See, I saw one, two of them coming out, and I just put the bucket over it.
You didn't bother to tell him.
I run on down the lane, you know, and probably running from those that got out. And he comes along and takes that bucket up, and he gets really stung by it.
Hello. You ought to killed you.
You ever get whenever I was a little feller, now I'm talking about, you was never too little to do something.
Oh, no.
But I always got the chore of holding the cow's tail. Now, I don't know if you ever heard of that, and I don't know whether it was really...
Cow's tail?
Yeah, hold their tail, because that cow will slap you with that tail.
I took a piece of binder twine and tied it to her leg.
Well, you could
well,
do like
yeah,
Mo done, tie a hammer to it.
Well,
You remember
yeah, but
Mo, don't you?
if you got a youngin' around there and you want to keep him out of trouble and know where he's at,
You make him hold the
Make
cow.
him stand there and hold that cow's tail.
Around shoeing the horses. 'Cause
yeah,
you
I've
don't
seen
hold
that.
the horses.
No, that horseshoe, and I can tell you something about that too. My dad, I was just like I say, I was a little feller, of course, and my dad, Papa he always brought in stock, and they would get rough stock and train it and whatever else. And my dad, him and his brother, they always kept one or two good gentle animals around whatever, but they'd take that rough stock and take it out in the pond, and two of them go out on a good horse, and one of them would switch over onto the rough stock, and that rough stock in that pond can't do a whole lot.
Not with the mud. He can't
That's right,
do
he
much.
can't do much, and that's how they
Then
do
when
it.
you fall, it don't hurt as bad.
Yeah.
We used to put the
That's kind of like a jet
gate.
ski.
We used to put the gate poles up under. They'd buck some, but
Yeah.
they'd kick it and hurt
Yeah.
themselves. So
Uh-huh.
they didn't buck all that much and
Yeah.
kick.
Dad, what they would do after they got them calmed down pretty good, they wouldn't never take them out on hard ground, because on hard ground they can they can buck,
Yeah.
but they take them out in a plowed field then,
Right.
where it just been turned,
Right.
and they couldn't get as much power
Right.
in bucking. It wear them down pretty quick. But anyhow, we can get off on some subject, but Dad, I can remember this very well. He had a big old horse there that was he was a draft horse, and name was Prince, and Dad shoed him right there beside the barn, and after he got him shoed, no saddle or nothing, he just slid up on his back and took him around the field bareback. I'm talking about just flat out whatever he could get out of that horse.
Right.
And that kind of surprised me. I never thought of Dad of being, everybody's got to put the saddle on and all that stuff.
Right.
But he just slide up on there with bareback, no grass sack or nothing.
Maybe he was part
We
Comanche.
never could afford those saddles.
Well, but I tell you, that comes from being raised like that around the stock. And it just comes as natural to him for that as it did other stuff.
I've got a side saddle. It's about 130, 40 years old.
Well, I got one too. Sure have, but I don't know how old it is. Huh?
I just don't own a horse.
Well,
My daddy bought a mule one time. Had the biggest animal I had ever seen, except when I went to the circus and saw some animals. He had to knock 4 6-inch boards out from over the door so that mule could get in the stable. And he thought he was going to have to dig a trench to get him in even after that. Well, old mule would lead pretty good, but when you hooked him up to something, that mule was wild. So we'd hook her up to a 2-horse turning plow. Somebody would have the lines, somebody would have the plow, and somebody would be leading her. Well, she'd throw dirt from here to that wall with that 2-horse turning plow. It was that strong, just pull that thing at a gallop. And it took a half a day to wear her down. And so he finally just never could get her like he wanted. He finally sold her, but that mule was the biggest animal I'd ever seen.
That'd have been a good one on a hay rake, wouldn't it?
Yeah.
You remember you ever hear about Bill Housley out there that time? He fell off his hay rake and got raked all over the field and nearly killed him.
No, I hadn't heard about that. Well,
One of them Oh, spring tooth.
Yeah. He
I
fell
got
off.
one down at my place.
He fell off. His team just kept going. They nearly killed him. They drug him all
I
the
can
way up the
imagine.
hillside.
That was an interesting.
He couldn't reach the lever to dump his them.
No, he couldn't reach the lever
Couldn't
then.
get out. He had to wait till they got to the fence row.
Well, even if he'd got to the lever, he couldn't. The distance, it would have still got him.
Yeah, and even at that, when he got there, he swore out he couldn't get up.
There's a lot of stories goes along with farming,
Right.
and you hear them all the time. Do you remember the old Hollingsworth place over here? Of course, it's still there, and it's straight up and down. Part of it is. It's so steep. I reckon they planted apple trees on part of it. But anyhow, this feller's
That way they didn't have to go pick them. They
yeah,
just put the bucket down the
they
bottom
go
of
to
the
the
hill.
bottom. But anyhow, feller's telling about they had a team up there trying to mow that thing around it. Well, the mowing around that hillside, I mean, it is steep. And the upper horse stumbled
Uh-oh.
and stumbled into the other one. And they failed. Now, you get a team falls on a hillside. Now, you talk about they're going to get excited, and everything else.
Yeah.
And they said they couldn't get them up or get them untangled. They had to cut the harness off of them to get them freed up to get them out of there.
How about that?
Yeah, I said, a heck of a
Well,
mess.
what was they doing? Mowing or
No,
something?
yeah, they was mowing.
Long,
With them old sickle
I've
mowers.
always had real good luck with animals, but we had a little mule one time that was bad to balk, and she would lay down.
Oh,
And
yeah.
you couldn't get. They tried setting her tail on fire and everything else, and she wouldn't move. But we finally found out that if you put water in her ear, she could not stand that, and she'd come up off that ground.
Yeah.
Well, I was coming way wet.
You ain't gonna do what you done.
Uh-oh.
You ain't gonna do what you done to the bees, are you?
Backfield over here, yeah. That is backfield. And she balked after we got past the creek.
You
over
got a
there.
problem, Bob.
I didn't have any water or anything with me, so you can imagine what I did for her. I got her up off that ground.
You had a problem your younger years, didn't you? You ought to carry a bucket.
I bet you never had a earache after that, did you? Bob, I can't top
All I
that.
had to do is look at him. You want to go to the shower?
Oh, mate.
Long.
Fellas, we carried on a whole lot of stuff, but
Well, anyway, if you've got a mule that you can't get up, call Bob Andrews. He's got the remedy.
get them back on their feet, huh?
We'll come up with some remedy.
Yeah, buddy, put out forest fires, chase out yeller jacket. He's good for everything. You take him down to the new convention center and he can hit Norris Lake. But it's in Anderson County.
Yeah.
They may need my help out there. I know they're drawing it down.
Yeah.
Yeah, Lord. The fellas, on a serious side, if it's serious, I don't know whether it is or not, but I hear that the president, Barry Sartora, has suggested, recommended, or by executive order, I don't know which one he uses anymore, but anyhow, they're designating $500 million to combat the Ebola virus in Africa. And I've got no objections with trying to contain this thing.
I don't think you ought to send
But-
troops.
Well, that's the point I was getting to. Also sending the military down there.
That worked out real good in World War I and the Spanish flu epidemic.
Yeah, it worked real good. I don't see the point of sending the military to combat a virus.
Well, they're probably going to be fighting something beside the Ebola virus. You know, you probably got all the factions in there that come in there and kill the aid workers.
Well,
Well, it won't take as long to burn itself out if they kill all the victims.
Yeah.
I don't understand a lot of this stuff. This virus, it has the potential to, with the way we travel and whatever else, to go worldwide, of course. And from what I'm hearing from the people in the medical field, we don't have what it takes, and neither does anybody to combat this. We don't have a serum. We're experimenting with something that we probably should have had 20 years ago. I don't see what it's going to do.
Well, I think you have to make contact with the people that have it in order to catch it. It's not a virus that flies in the air. I think you have to be subject to some of their body fluids or some kind of close contact with these people that have the Ebola virus in order to catch it.
Well, I don't know whether I buy that.
I've got a problem with that too, and the reason I say
these aid workers knows how to take precautions against that, and neither one.
Well,
and they're still getting
They
it.
don't come in contact with these people's body fluid. No, they wear rubber gloves.
How do they get it?
How do they get it?
How do they
Well,
get
they
it?
probably had some mishap, but two of them out of hundreds of.
Well, that's just two that they brought here. There's several of them got it.
There's
They got
oodles of
doctors and nurses dying every day.
Well, I understand that you can't catch it unless you have no aid workers in another country caught it.
Oh
Yeah.
yeah, they are too.
No, I'm talking about where the Ebola virus is in countries that didn't have the Ebola virus. Didn't nobody catch it over there.
Well, I think
They
we
had to make contact with the ones that
that's
in the country where they
Yeah,
had.
they
That's
do
what we're
have
talking
to go
about.
to the country, but I don't believe that it's as hard to catch as they want us to think it is, because they've got too many people that know how to handle it, and they still get it.
well, the aid workers should be well aware
Yeah.
of the exposure and what it does take to get it, and yet they are, some of them, contracting it. But the point I'm trying to make is this thing, first of all, the incubation period on it is so long. People can have it for such a long time and not show any symptoms. So anyone would have to be quarantined that had been in the area, or possibly, well, let me back up and say this. You take one person who has contracted it and does not know it for as high as 21 days, could come in contact with a lot of people. And of course, that's just like a wildfire spreading. I'm surprised that we haven't seen more of it in the United States.
I've seen any.
Well, we have imported the 2 cases, and I reckon from all the indication are that they have
Well, you
been
know
cured
why
of it.
most places have an incubating department to take care of it.
Correct.
That's what we have down at Jacksboro.
Our
an
incubator around here don't work good, or everybody in the county that has it.
Okay, I got you. Whenever you said incubator, I thought of quarantine. But there's no way that we would have enough facilities to quarantine such a thing. Now, this kind of leads into another
I
thing.
wouldn't have no trouble quarantining me if I found out it was around. I'd
Right.
quarantine myself.
But first thing you would ask yourself too is, how did you contact it? How did you come in, if you were infected
I ain't
with
talking
it?
about quarantining me after I caught it. I'm talking about quarantining me before I catch it.
Oh, okay. Okay. You kind of lost me in that translation, but another subject is this, what do they call it, 64 or 68 virus that the children are contracting?
And I've got a suspicion about where that come from too. We've discussed
Nobody's
it before.
talking about it though.
You know we have almost 1,000 of those children in Tennessee.
Last count I had, it was 909 of them. The largest concentration, of course, was in Davidson County. The governor wrote a letter to the
That's Nashville, ain't it?
Barry, Sortoris, and protested the fact that this was being done without advising.
Any prior knowledge or anything else.
That's correct. And I hear, which it makes sense too, that anyone who worked in these facilities in Texas were under oath or had to sign an oath not to speak of anything they saw or whatever in these.
Well, the reason it didn't show up until they placed them out is because they were kept together in military barracks, and the military people knew they were sick, but they couldn't say anything.
Yeah, and the kids that had it, it's not. It's endemic to their countries, and it's probably no more than the sniffles for them.
Good point.
So when it comes here, it's like when we brought smallpox to the Indians. I mean, we just decimated them.
And the Indians gave us a good dose of something too.
Well, they still already know where it started, but yeah, there's a little payback went on there.
I've not. I don't know what the current count is as far as.
Montezuma done all right with it too. Montezuma done all right.
The count of people who have become infected with this virus, is it 68? Is that, they just gave it a number, or 64 or something like that? It was a number of the last time that it was known to be in America.
I don't know. I don't know.
The last they knew of it. Well, that number, I reckon, represents the year of the last case of it.
I bet if you come down with something like that, you could pick up the phone here in this country and call 562-9370.
And they'd come out there, them hazmat masses on.
You'd be taken to a medical facility with the tenderest, loving care that you could get by Vital Care Medical Transport Service.
They'll even take
they'll get you right there.
They'll even haul tomato juice victims, won't they, Bob?
Right. If they'll carry a tomato juice victim, they'd carry anybody.
I reckon they would.
Yeah, I reckon
562-9370. They're not the ones in the middle of the road, though.
No, they're not in the middle of the road. But if you're in the middle of the road, they'll stop and get you.
Yeah, load you up.
The news media on this virus, the only thing you hear, or that I have heard said, is that it's in this state or whatever. From what I'm hearing, if you dig a little deeper, you'll find out they say it's in Texas, but it's really amped up in Dallas. Is where the large Dallas, and also they say it's in Illinois, but primarily it's in Chicago. And
you got to go where the people are at.
Well, here's the thing. You got a virus that shows up in certain places. How did it get from one place to the other so quickly? Of course they know. The CDC knows and whatever else.
Right.
But they're not going to talk about it. There's not going to be. Let me bring up another subject. I don't know whether you can call it Sorotora care or Obamacare. He's using the name Obama now. I got another question I'd like to ask too. But anyhow, everybody on this thing is going to have to renew up, I believe, starting October the 15th through November the 15th. And there's a ton of surprises in this thing from what I'm reading in the newspaper and articles about it. The people who haven't bought into insurance that meets the requirements of Obamacare, they haven't paid anything, and if they've got anything coming back, like their income tax return, any refund whatsoever from the IRS, the government is going to confiscate it up to the point of whatever they think they owe, or what the government says they owe. And I read an article says that there's 100,000 or 150,000. I know it's over 100,000 people who have failed to prove that they are citizens. So that's going to be part of it. And there's another, I believe, 150,000 of them, or no, I believe it's about 300,000 that have not verified their income. Or falsified their income. They've saying that they're making far less than what they're actually taking in, and thus they're going to owe the IRS back for Obamacare. And there's an automatic renewal in this thing, and I don't understand exactly the drawback to it, but the people, and I read the article, but I didn't catch the big problem with it, but I keep hearing them advertising or suggesting that people, whatever they do, not go with the automatic renewal, to go back and sign again or something. Because this automatic renewal, somewhere there's something hid in it. But come next year, if I'm not mistaken, the penalty is going to double. In other words, it was just a penance this year. It's not going to be very much. But it will get everybody's name on the roll and whatever else. And next year, it's going to go, it's going to double whatever it was,
just like
or
gun
more.
registration. Registration is the first step toward confiscation. And signing up for Obamacare is just letting them know who you are and where you are, and then they can lower the boom on you.
Well, the funny thing to me is all this work and everything, and we got less people insured than we did before we started. And the other thing is, you can't keep putting stuff off till the next election. Sooner or later, you're going to have to do it.
Tell me they can't. They keep doing it.
What do you think about, and I keep wanting to address him as Barry, the president, putting off this immigration bill until after the election. And then
it ain't a bill.
It's executive order. He's done told the citizens of this country what he's going to do right after the election. He's going to sign an executive order, and as far as I'm concerned, it's going to boil down to amnesty.
Open the floodgate.
Yeah, blanket amnesty. And the only reason he's putting it off right now is because he's afraid that it'll show reflection upon the other Democrats that are looking to be reelected. Is the only reason. And I believe that he's pretty much just about told us how it is.
I'm assuming that under present law he has the right to do that under executive orders. That may be debatable in a court of law, I don't know. But why, when the new Congress come in, can't their first priority be to pass a law where he can't do that?
Well, the next president can undo whatever he does. Of course, if you done got it all done, you ain't going to get it undone.
Well, no, you can't undo it.
It's kind of like this health bill. I don't think it'll ever be undone. It's kind of like our Rule 13 here in the county, restricting our freedom of speech at the commission. I don't think it will be undone. I hear a lot of talk, but I think it will be amended rather than rescinded is what it'll be. And I think they'll leave, there's all sorts of...
We could get busy on that. We might could do something about that.
I agree, we probably could. But let me ask a question, Bob. What effect will it have anymore? I'm becoming disenchanted with the whole system. I'm learning more every day about how the local, and you can call it politics or you can call it cliques or everything else. I'm learning more every day as to how it works. And
how you like it?
Oh, it sucked. Well, I'll tell you.
Now, don't be bashful. What do you really think about it?
Well, you take a look, and here's the thing that the general public here does not know. They do not know who is related to who or whom.
Well, I believe if you call down to the clerk's office and you want to speak to the clerk, and one of them will say, "Let's see if Mama's here."
Yep.
Well, I'm going back. I'm not.
It's always been that way.
I'm going back to other parts. There's people that are related in such manners that you'd never guess or find out about it, about who's married to who, and whose cousins
are so big is the reason they keep getting elected.
Well, you're right. Not only their family, but there's members outside the family. Everything is connected together, and there's big money involved through these families and these connections. I'm not going to dig into it too much as far as naming names, but I'm learning as I go along. And let me give you an example. It's no secret, my opinion of David Young. David Young has got pull, not because of his character or whatever, but the positions he's been in, the connections he's made. And if he didn't have some sort of an agreement, William Beard would have never appointed him as the deputy mayor to run this county. William Beard, pretty much to my way of seeing it, when he appointed David Young, William Beard just left. You know what I'm saying? As far as running the county, he turned it over to David. Now,
that's because David's got everybody convinced that what he does is so much better than anybody else.
Well, anyhow, I don't know exactly how to put it into the words.
King of Campbell County.
But here's the thing. We go out here and we have an election and we elect so many new people. But the people who have got the power in this county, who make things happen, and when I'm talking about make things happen, I'm not talking about all for the good. They're for the good of those who make it happen. And they'll come out here, if you shake their tree, just like what we've done. We've shook their tree in the city and in the county.
Man.
Yeah. But see, like you fellas are in business, and I ain't going to say I'm in business because there's I don't know how to say it. In order to be, the word has come down in different years past as how they'd put me out of business. Well, I said, first of all, I've got to be in business before you can put me out of business. So I'm not really what you say in business. But yet, they can hurt you in places in ways that you never know about. It's kind of like getting bitten by one of them.
Unless you're 80 years old,
right.
You don't owe them any money.
Right.
You ain't looking for a job.
Right.
It's like they were going to run me out of town. I found out I was too old to run. I know how to run.
That's right. But the connections are, this whole area here is tied together through marriages, families, and
we're all
cousins.
inbred, ain't we?
Well, let's say one person of significant influence here can make a suggestion to somebody else over here, and it'll carry weight.
It carries a little bit more
carries weight
than a suggestion made by me or you.
That's correct. And I've said this before, it's like this new county commission that we're putting in there. And I seriously doubt that any of them ever watched this or whatever. They might be a few. In my opinion, the way a new politician gets had is not due to the fact that they offer him a bribe or anything like that. What they do, they offer to do him a favor. They'll do him a little favor. And from what I've seen,
my back and I'll scratch yours.
When Mr. Young, now I hate to even use the word, when he was in a position of authority, he would do all sorts of favors for people. Not out of his pocket, but out of the taxpayer's pocket.
Out of my pocket.
Right. He'd do a favor. And all right, he'd do you a little favor and a bigger favor and a bigger favor. But there comes a time that he either wants you to repay that favor or put his word in somewhere else. The thing networks all together.
Oh, I know.
And
very true.
There are new commissioners down here. The people who are in positions will start doing them favors. And I don't care if it's nothing more than taking them out to lunch. But
some of them old boys you don't want to feed too often.
Well, if you're going to get paid back 100 times what you feed them, and that brings up another subject. That's how it's done. You don't go right out here and offer a guy a bribe or anything else. What you do is you do him a favor.
They do.
And sometimes they do. I'd agree. I've been into situations where a contractor comes to town and you approach him to provide a product or services for him. And he'd come right blatantly out and tell you, I bought an item down here. Let's say, I'm going back a few years back. I just bought a new bass boat down here, right over here. Everybody that supplies goods to this job makes one payment on this boat.
Right.
All right, you either pay or you don't. Okay, now, let's say that you don't play this game. All right? Let's say you say, well, you call the company that he works for, and you say, looky here, what's going on? And they say, oh yeah, well, he gets the job done.
Yeah.
You see what I'm saying?
A bass boat, but you reckon you can help me get me a new jet ski if I was buying
Well,
the concrete?
Well, this is how I'm telling you how things work. There was one, and I'm going back a while, there was one that came to town, and he wanted a set of matching revolvers. Pearl handle, you know what I'm talking about?
Yeah.
Fancy revolvers, that's what he wanted. And whoever supplied them took care of certain products
Well,
for
he
him.
can do that, especially since he ain't spending his money, he's spending somebody else's
Right.
money.
Had another one, he was partial to the ladies. You had to fix him up with the ladies. And this is how
Getting
business...
business off of him?
No, didn't get no business
Yeah,
off him
right. I
either.
thought well, you had some connections. I'd be interested in.
Didn't get no business off him. But what I'm telling you, this is how things are done. In your squeaky clean communities and whatever, you'd be surprised what happens. And a guy here that's trying to do it honest is an idiot. I mean, if his main objective is to advance in the business world, this is how he advances. Now, there may be a few in a certain little enclaves that may be successful. But whenever they cross the people that are in positions of power, life becomes difficult. And if anybody wants to argue the point, I'm open for discussion on it.
No, very well. You know, I've been out in the business world for many, many years, and to give you an illustration, I had a motel one time that was on septic tanks, and they come out there and they were wanting to condemn my septic tank because they really, you know, they didn't like me, you know, and I don't care what they did or not. And so I bought the lot next to me so I could extend my septic tank lines. So I perked them and everything. They said, no, you cannot put any additional lines across this lot. Well, I had a young man that I had coached basketball against who owned a lot behind me that had a sewer outfall. He said, Bob, just go ahead and build you an outfall right across my land. Said, you don't owe me nothing. That you use it just as long as you own that property. So we proceeded to dig a outfall line, put the pipe in the ground. We had to cross the creek there, which I know how to build everything up to cross the creek and everything, and we got it tied into the sewer line. Well, I didn't need that lot anymore. It was right on I-85. So I sold it for a pretty good price. The guy who bought it, his son-in-law worked for the city in the planning department or something. Next thing I knew, he was building a building over there and putting in new septic tanks. Well, I had the letter where they had turned me down that it would not accept any additional lines on my property. I promptly sued them for $250,000.
Why didn't you sue him for enough to make it interesting? Why didn't you sue him for enough to make it interesting?
Well, I sued them for $250,000, and that's what I won. I won the $250,000. That's my attorney fee. And because, you know, they turned me down just to put an extension on my sewer lines, but yet they let him come in there and put new septic tanks. And because he tried to get to go out the back door to that outfall line, that guy wouldn't let him go, you know. So they just allowed him to do that, and I sued him and won.
Oh, good. There's in the now what you're talking about. See, but the taxpayers ended up paying that indirectly.
Well, in premium till
yeah.
we come out of their
Okay.
insurance, you know.
Right now, the next 3 or 4 days, I believe it started Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, about a 4-day or 5-day. In the Sentinel, there's going to be an article each day, and I believe it's for 4 days, maybe 5, explaining the stuff that goes on in Knoxville City and Knox County, and I'm sure it goes on in all locations, is to where that whenever a city employee, be it a police officer or whatever, makes a mistake, does something that they shouldn't have, the taxpayer ends up paying for it. And I believe the city of Knoxville or the county, one to other's got about a $2 million a year that they set aside for people that get shot unintentionally, or one example they gave where a patrolman ran through somebody's house. And
$71,000 it
yeah,
cost.
but that one guy got shot in the back, and I believe it was $280 or $70,000 or $80,000 where he got shot in the back.
Well, you know when Hanford and Kate, what's his name?
Sexton.
Wrecked the city vehicle. It's never come out that they had to buy that woman that was involved with that accident a new vehicle, which cost $30-some thousand just to get her a new vehicle, not counting the damages
Well,
to.
was they going out there to lock picking school, or what was they doing?
I don't know, really.
We gotta go, fellas.
Huh?
We gotta go.
Yeah, I know we have. That's why I was looking for my, whatever I did with my phone.
It's in your pocket.
Huh?
It's in your pocket, I guarantee you.
Probably.
Probably.
No, it's not either.
Anyhow.
I'm probably sitting on it. Yeah, folks, we got to go. It's been a pleasurable afternoon. I hope you've enjoyed our rambling and talking and our sense of what's right and wrong. And I heard something interesting last night. One of your radio commentators says, if this country is going to be saved, it will have to be by the rednecks.
Well,
and that's true.
That's true.
Well, this is Redneck Central signing off.
Right.
You got any more redneck comments?
See you.
No, I'll just
See
save
you
it for
Saturday.
next time.
See you, folks.